Ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Cattle producers need to know disaster aid is now available through the USDA, plus expert advice on making top quality hay.
And now, NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. Leading our news this week, natural disasters like drought or flooding can have a devastating impact on an operation's bottom line. Now, farmers and ranchers that have experienced financial hardship in the past several years have the option to sign up for disaster assistance programs that have been reestablished and strengthened by the 2014 Farm Bill. Depending on the size or type of your farm or ranch, eligible producers can enroll in one of three programs administered by the USDA's Farm Service Agency.
The livestock forage program provides benefits to those producers that lost forage because of drought. This program, the main eligibility is drought. There's no other natural disaster conditions that affect the eligibility. So this is one of our major programs that we feel we're going to get a lot of interest in. Right now, we have had a lot of interest since April 15th, close to 13,000 applications that we've received throughout the United States. The other program that we have available is the Livestock Indemnity Program, which provides benefits to those producers that lost livestock due to natural disasters. The best example that I can give here is the Atlas blizzard last October in South Dakota and some of the surrounding states that lost thousands of head of livestock. The last program that I want to talk about is the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program for livestock, honeybees, and farm-raised fish. This particular program is kind of a catch-all to other types of disasters that are not covered under the Livestock Forage Program and the Livestock Indemnity Program. Now, this particular program does have a cap of $20 million. And so it would cover losses, for example, if a producer had wildfire that destroyed all their pasture and they needed some additional feed to provide for their cattle. We can provide assistance there.
All cattle producers who experience weather-related losses are encouraged to contact their local FSA office for information on the types of records needed and to schedule an appointment. Producers have 3 to 9 months to apply, depending on the program and the year of the loss. You can also visit the website fsa.usda.gov to get more information on disaster assistance program and the enrollment process. Also on the policy front, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Army Corps of Engineers recently proposed an expansion of their authority over waters of the United States. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Russell Nemitz has more on what this could mean for ranchers across the country.
For more than 40 years, the issue of what waters fell under federal authority hinged on whether they were navigable or near an adjacent wetland. Under a new proposed expansion, essentially all waters in the country would be subject to regulation by the EPA and Army Corps of Engineers, regardless of size or continuity of flow.
When you start looking at this proposed rule and truly what it means for agriculture, you really have to look at those playa lakes, the stock tanks, the ditches that at some points of the year might actually have water standing in them or running through them. Essentially, the federal government is treating those like a river or a tributary that actually runs into a larger body of water like the ocean.
And of course, that has huge implications for a land-based activity like cattle ranching. We deal with the land every day with a lot of features that could now be considered waters of the United States. And for everyday activities like cattle ranching, for applying weed management or weed control on pasture lands, those could now be permitted activities that you have to ask the federal government for permission to conduct.
EPA's efforts to clarify the meaning of waters of the United States may actually have the opposite effect. Now, almost all activities on open land will touch a water of the United States under the expanded definition. This could require cattlemen to obtain costly and burdensome permits to take care of everyday chores like moving cattle across a wet pasture or cleaning a dugout.
If it's a rainy season, which we haven't had enough of lately, but you know, there's areas in the pasture that just stand water that you know, can't really call them a lake or a river or anything else. They're just kind of a low spots, you know, and there's a lot of them. So if you know, traveling and moving cattle from one pasture to the next or going to the pens, I mean, there's possibilities that areas like that could be impacted, and you know, we would be waiting in line for some permit to be able to do just normal ranch activities, and we just can't have that kind of disruption in our businesses.
Well, I've got a lot of dry tributaries in my area that traditionally would not fall within navigable waters under any of their definitions. Got a lot of arroyos that run across us, and as near as I can understand from the language they used, all of those things would suddenly become waters of the U.S., subject to all the permit restrictions and other activity restrictions.
This proposed rule could hinder the ability of ranchers to manage their land, which is why NCBA is working hard on Capitol Hill to help lawmakers understand the potential for long-term damage to the beef industry.
NCBA is going to put a lot of efforts forward, and I know our membership is committed to this too, so you'll have the national pressure and then you'll have the grassroots from throughout the country pushing back against the EPA to say you don't have jurisdiction over every single water or area that could actually contain water moving forward, as your proposal is intending to do.
We really need cattle producers to come out in droves to comment on this rule and talk about the things that they do on their property every day that could cause soil to touch a water, or maybe not even a water. Maybe it's a dry stream bed that might be considered a water in the United States. We need personal stories from cattle producers, as well as talking to their elected officials, whether that's at the local, state, county level, and especially their federal elected officials, their senators and their representatives. You know, ask them and demand that they do something to stop the EPA and stop this massive land grab and overreach.
Reporting from Washington, D.C., I'm Russell Nimitz for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
The proposal will be open for public comment until July 21st, and NCBA will submit comments on behalf of its members. Go to beefusa.org to find out more about how to contact the EPA and let them know your feelings about this proposal. Weather patterns are changing, and that could have an impact both on herd size and cattle prices. We have more in this week's Market Watch.
Market Watch.
And Troy Appelhans with Cattle Facts now joins us. Troy, we've seen a shift in weather patterns, at least in some parts of the country throughout the spring months. What is that meaning in terms of cattle prices across the country?
This drought's been pretty relentless, I mean, over the past several years, particularly in the southern plains states and western states in particular. It's been devastating to California in particular over the past year. Seems like east of the Mississippi River, conditions are pretty good. Obviously, there's a pocket in there from like Montana to Wyoming into the Dakotas that looks pretty good, but the remainder of the country still remains in a pretty severe drought. And obviously that's had some impacts in terms of producers being able to expand their cow herds or add to the herd in these regions. But I think if we take a look at it from the standpoint of, you know, where we can or have the ability to expand, it's probably in the southern plains states. Since 2010, those states' cow herds have reduced by 17%. And so when we look at it in terms of where we have the capacity to really expand the cow herd, it would probably be in the southern plains region. And obviously these calf prices have been phenomenal. I mean, we've had a tremendous run, and it's very rare that you have all three segments of production that are profitable in terms of feed yards, stocker operators, and cow-calf operators. And it's been a tremendous run for all of them, and something has to give at some point, and one of them are going to get leverage over the other. With cow numbers as low as they are, you have to believe that the cow-calf operator is going to maintain that leverage, and margins will probably get tighter for those other two segments here going forward.
Well, I want to follow up on that and talk specifically about the feedlot segment for just a moment. We've talked a whole lot about shrinking feeder calf supplies. How are feeders reacting to that, and what do you anticipate as we get into the summer and fall months in terms of fed cattle prices?
Well, the cattle feeders have been very profitable. They started turning a pretty good profit starting about last September after going through a long-term equity drain in that segment. The thing that's bothersome or burdensome to feed yards at this point is the fact that the inventory report on January 1 stated 950,000 fewer feeder cattle and calves outside feed yards. Yet since October as a whole, up until the present time, we've placed more cattle on feed. So the utilization rate of that smaller supply is going to become more burdensome as we go forward, and these feeder cattle supplies are just going to be harder and harder to find. And typically what happens is you'll see that they've made profits here over the past several months. They'll tend to have to give back some of that margin in order to get the inventory going forward.
Well, let's talk about cattle herd expansion, and you'd mentioned a moment ago the prospects of that, but clearly this drought's having an impact, and frankly, the amount of money cow-calf producers can get for that heifer calf makes it a little tough to keep some of those heifers back in the herd. What are the prospects moving forward for herd expansion in 2014?
You know, expansion's been a buzzword for the past several years, 3 or 4 years, where we really need to expand the herd in order to keep up with the demand for the product, obviously. But before you can expand, you have to stabilize the herd. And that's what we're looking to do at the present time, is just try to keep the herd from reducing on an annual basis. We think that going into January of 2015, that the U.S. beef cow herd will be larger, 200,000 to 400,000 head probably. Okay. But in the grand scheme of things, we're starting out at 29 million and we were at 33, 34 million not too long ago. You know, another 300,000 or 400,000 cows isn't that many in the grand scheme of things. And so expansion is going to be slow. You first have to stabilize it. And like you said, I mean, it's very evident that the prices some of these cattle are bringing, it's hard to turn the money down in certain cases. And obviously, if Mother Nature doesn't cooperate with us, it makes it that much more difficult.
And real quick, Troy, tell us your projections on replacement female prices.
Replacement female market's going to remain strong. A lot of it's going to depend on Mother Nature and the moisture conditions and so forth as we go forward here. It's difficult for me to talk any of the replacement female prices lower, whether it be open heifers, bred heifers, or cows, or pairs. Just from the standpoint that we have very good support levels at current price levels. But if Mother Nature kind of cooperates and moisture conditions improve, we could certainly see $200 to $500 head improvement in those prices.
Amazing. Thanks so much for your time today and for your perspective. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
For more information and expert market analysis, visit the website cattlefacts.com. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Adjusting and operating the mower and the conditioner in an appropriate manner is really crucial to producing high quality hay.
We'll have expert advice on crop conditioning and the keys to managing high quality hay. Plus, we'll see how one operation is working to keep its cattle free of parasites. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You're watching NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman on RFD TV.
The Case IH Spring Sales Event is on now, making it a great time to get the equipment you need for this season. With 0% financing for 60 months on all Farmall and Maxim Series tractors, as well as our complete line of hay tools, you can turn everyday chores into everyday savings. But hurry, the Spring Sales Event ends June 30th, 2014. For more information, ask your local Case IH dealer or go to caseih.com/special offers.
There's something wrong. His head is down. He's clearly stressed. He's worried sick about BRD. That's why there's prescription Zactran for BRD treatment and control in high-risk cattle. Get a rapid response plus 10-day treatment and control in a single dose, so you can stop worrying and get back to business. For use in cattle only, do not treat cattle within 35 days of slaughter. Because a discard time in milk has not been established, do not use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, or in calves to be processed for veal. The effects of Zactran on bovine reproductive performance, pregnancy, and lactation have not been determined. Don't worry yourself sick. Talk to your veterinarian about a real alternative for BRD treatment and control. Because it's critical, it's Zactran from Mariel, a leading animal health company.
For most cattlemen and women, this past winter was one of the toughest in many years. And that means a lot of hay was used to keep cows in good condition. When it comes to producing hay this year, many producers will be looking to maximize production and quality. One way to improve hay quality is by properly conditioning your hay crop. For more on the keys to producing high-quality hay, we turn to Cattleman reporter Brian Baxter.
The Imperial Valley of California is known worldwide for the quality of alfalfa it produces. Alfalfa hay is prized because of the high levels of energy, protein, and nutrients it provides to cattle. But if you want to increase the feed value of your alfalfa and other hay crops, the experts say you should be conditioning that crop properly when you cut it.
That's a really crucial step in hay or haylage making, but particularly for hay. First, if we condition properly and spread it into a wide swath, we get the initial moisture loss to be less, and therefore we preserve the fermentable carbohydrates and improve the nutrition. The second thing, of course, is that we get the hay dried sooner, so that when we're in harvesting, we don't have as much yield loss from the next cutting. And then the third thing would be that in some parts of the country, getting it off the field a day sooner means we're less likely to get rained on.
In fact, the time of day you choose to cut your crop is a factor in ultimate hay quality.
We do know that when we cut in the afternoon, we have more starch and sugars in the plant, and that again makes it more palatable to animals and makes it higher quality. Whether or not we cut in the afternoon depends on how fast we can get that initial drying to occur. And so if we're in the western states where drying is good, then cutting in the afternoon is a good idea because it will increase the sugar in the harvested forage. If we're in the eastern states, then if we cut in the afternoon, we have more sugar, but it doesn't dry as much by nightfall, so we lose it before we make hay, and the benefit is negligible. So in the west, cutting in the afternoon is preferred. In the eastern United States, probably in the morning.
While moisture is seldom an issue in the Imperial Valley, in most areas of the country, getting the crop dried, baled, and out of the field more quickly benefits quality.
So rapid drying, losing that first 15% moisture is crucial because that helps shut down respiration and preserves the starch and sugars for the animals that we're feeding. What this means to us is twofold. First off, in terms of selling hay, the prices that we've seen over winter, a 4% starch loss would be about a $40 per ton premium discount in California and would be a $60 or $70 discount for hay in the Midwestern United States. The other thing to keep in mind, though, is that it's important for dairy, but it's also important for beef cattle. With the kind of winter that we had, if we had that extra quality, we could have fed the cattle quality hay to help them get through that cold weather without the need for supplemental grain and still have maintained the body condition on those animals that we want for calving in the spring.
So what can you do to influence the quality of your hay? First, recognize that setting up your mower conditioner to create a wider swath leads to faster dry down.
A wide swath is really the single most important factor for drying for haylage and even for hay, because a wide swath spreads the forage out so that it intercepts more sunlight. It keeps the stomates or the holes in the leaves open so that they lose their moisture faster. And then conditioning, of course, is important for drying the stems. So A wide swath is for drying the leaves, conditioning is for drying the stems.
So New Holland offers a wide dry conditioning module in our new disc spine series. It's 125 inches wide, and it is the widest in the industry, and we're excited to unveil that. And really, why is that important? It creates a nice smooth mat of crop coming out the rear of the machine, and thorough conditioning is the key here. Being able to cut at 13 or 16 foot 3 and then push that crop back through 125 inches of conditioning provides a nice, thorough conditioning job.
In addition, producers can choose New Holland's wide, thin fin kit to help make dry down happen more quickly.
On our smaller side pull cutting machines, we offer a kit called Wide Thin Fin. And what that kit does is we basically take off the windrow shields, take off the slide deflectors on the swath gate, and basically mount fins underneath the swath gate itself so that the crop can be basically swathed at a measurable distance greater than the cutting. So 9'2" or 10-foot cutting machines, we like to see the swaths be wider than the cutting widths themselves. If you can get it right around 70 to 80, maybe even 90% of cutting width, spreading that crop wide and thin will promote dry down, it will promote the sun exposure, and it will also help the wind to come in and dry down that crop. And taking that moisture level down from the 80% down to that 50 and then down to 13% is really something that we look forward to.
And we'll have more on making high quality hay when we return. Stay with us.
When it comes to your land, it pays to be smart. At New Holland, smart means giving you a wide range of options to fit your needs, like smooth cutting, flood-free conditioning, and versatility. Smart means putting more hay in the bale and leaving less in the field. It also means providing exceptional after-sale support and growing a legacy that goes far beyond equipment. That's New Holland Smart. Visit your local New Holland dealer today.
I'm Sheila Carges. This is my husband Brock. We have two girls, Karina and Jessica. Both girls can pull cattle, doctor, process anything that we need them to do.
Using products that help keep the calves healthy, it helps my parents to be less stressful, it helps them to be at home more, and it helps pay more bills when you don't have to worry about sick cattle.
I'd say 99% of our cattle are high risk.
We've never seen a response due to a metaphylaxis like we have with the Draxxin. I think Draxxin has a major role in any operation as far as your viability and your long-term outlook.
And how do you quantify having a peace of mind to take a vacation for a week or leave work early to go watch a basketball game? You can't quantify that.
Important safety information for Draxxin. Draxxin has a pre-slaughter withdrawal time of 18 days. Do not use in dairy cattle 20 months of age or older. Effects on reproductive performance, pregnancy, and lactation have not been determined.
Welcome back. Now let's return to California's Imperial Valley for more on the keys to making high quality hay.
In addition to a wide swath, recognize that there are a variety of choices you can make when it comes to the tools that will condition your hay crop.
So New Holland offers 3 effective crop conditioning solutions for the general hay customer, hay and forage owner. And really on our disc spine we offer 3 solutions for that. Number 1 is the Chevron rubber intermeshing rolls, and really that rubber roll is good for the alfalfa type crop, the soft legumes, something that has leaves. It really provides a good crimp and crush crop conditioning. with those rubber rolls, and going through there provides a really good opportunity for the moisture to escape and help with the respiration process so that you can get the dry down that you're looking for. The second type of effective conditioning that New Holland offers is called our leaning edge flails. And New Holland offers that on all of our disc bind series. And basically the reason that you wanted to use the flail type conditioning is going to be for more of a grass type hay, something where it's much more aggressive. Guys use them to really help to promote the dry down. It's probably the most effective type of conditioning, but it's also the most forceful type of conditioning as well. The third type of conditioning that we offer in our disc binds is a steel on steel intermeshing roll. And that really is going to be for more of a cane or a grass type crop as well. It does do a really nice and thorough job.
Whatever choice you make to condition your crop, you also need to take the time to check and look closely to ensure you're getting the effect you want.
So when we're conditioning hay, we should adjust close to what we think is appropriate and then mow around and get off and look at what that hay looks like after we have mowed that one round. And we should see a couple things. One is we should see 1 to 5% of the leaves showing some bruising or some slight turning of color. The other thing is we should be able to see that the stems are broken every 3 to 4 inches. The bruising and the stem breakage will tell us that we've got enough tension on our conditioner that we're properly conditioning that alfalfa, both for the type and the amount of forage going through.
So that means that the crop that's going through your conditioning rolls or conditioning flails is going to get a nice thorough conditioning so that really when you're looking at the moisture loss, it really helps the hay to dry down quickly and so that you can get your baling operation underway. The sooner you can do that, the more digestible your hay is going to be, and that goes right into the diet of the animal that you're trying to feed.
Adjusting and operating the mower and the conditioner in an appropriate manner is really crucial to producing high quality hay, which is profitable to the beef cattleman, the dairyman, the commercial hay grower, and everyone else involved.
The experts also say producers should be sure to set the appropriate roll gap and roll pressure to provide the conditioning they want for the crop they're cutting. Be sure to ask your local dealer to review conditioner setting with you prior to season to ensure you have the information to be successful. From the Imperial Valley of California, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Now remember, New Holland offers outstanding discounts for NCBA members. To find out more, visit the website beefusa.org or stop in at your local New Holland dealer. Still ahead, we'll visit with Baxter Black, and next, we'll learn about controlling cattle parasites. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is yours, and so is what grows there. Not theirs or theirs, yours. You need this to fight this and this to grow more this. Because the more of this you feed them, the less this you spend on that, which leaves more of this here. Don't let them take this from you. Chaparral takes care of weeds and brush, and that's that.
To truck guys, the truck is everything. And when you put them in charge of making an unbeatable truck, good things happen. This is the Ram 1500, the 2014 Motor Trend Truck of the Year. And first ever back-to-back winner. Guts, glory, Ram.
With cattle prices where they are today, you can't afford to lose pounds of gain to internal parasites in your herd. And it's important to realize that some parasites may be resistant to certain treatment options. For more on effective cattle deworming and parasite control, we head to Arkansas and Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Brian Baxter.
Cattlemen know that effective internal parasite control is the cornerstone of every animal health program. Using the right product at the right time is critical for maximum production.
Parasite control is so important to cattlemen because parasites do three things to animals. They decrease the feed intake, decrease average daily gain, and they affect the immune system. This can amount to about $190 over the lifetime of that animal. The other thing is they affect every segment of the cattle production system, whether it's the cow-calf guy, the stocker guy, or the feedlot guy. These animals have to deal with these parasites in every part of the production cycle.
Eldon Fry is the owner of a custom preconditioning operation near Quitman, Arkansas. Eldon says the key to his business is getting cattle healthy and ready for their next home.
We've been preconditioning cattle since 1999. Before that, we were a cow-calf operation for about 15 years prior to that. Spring of 99, we converted over, sold the cows, and became preconditioning lot. We get in anywhere from 7 to 10,000 a year. We keep cattle 45 to 60 days normally. Give all of our vaccinations, dehorning, castrate bulls, ID. Get the cattle healthy and ready to go west, either to grass or to the feedlot directly, depending on the size of cattle we get in.
Fry says being in the cattle business is a way of life that suits him.
I'm in the cattle business because it's a way of life that I really enjoy. It's something I've been doing for 30 years. And then from the dairy business to be in the beginning to the stocker, to a beef cow operation. We had registered cows. Our son got into showing cattle. It's a perfect place to raise your kids. It's just a way of life that I really love. I like to take care of the animals. We really enjoy doing it.
For Eldon Fry, controlling internal parasites is an important factor in the entire animal health process.
Internal parasite control is important because these cattle are stressed. When we get cattle in on initial working, we're using Safeguard wormer along with our vaccines. We use a 5-way IBR BVD. We use a pastorilla with black-legged cattle, and like I said, we use Safeguard. So we're going to vaccinate them with a 5-way. You sure want it to work. You're spending the money on the vaccine and you want that calf to do it. So worming him on the first day and cleaning him out with Safeguard seems to me like works faster and gets that calf to where his immune system can be able to work and help that calf.
Dr. Newcomb describes the science that links internal parasite control with a properly working immune system.
What we know is that when you deworm an animal, then you're getting rid of the worms, and what we've seen is that the excretions and secretions of the worm are what's causing an altered immune response. So an animal that's heavily parasitized may not be able to respond properly to viral vaccine or viral disease, but when you kill that worm, then in about a 14-day period, the body is able to reset itself and respond properly with a proper immune response to your viral vaccine.
Eldon Fry definitely sees the effect.
I'll definitely see a difference after worming. And worming cattle and getting them parasite free sure helps the vaccines work a lot better, I think. You get your immune system up.
Optimal internal parasite control has become more difficult as resistance to a popular class of cattle dewormer available in pour-on and injectable forms has been documented and identified in many states.
Deworming protocols have changed in recent years because of resistance, okay? When we think about what's gone on, say, over the last 40 years in the cattle business with dewormers, in the 1970s, it was the brown stomach worm, okay? Ostratasia was the baddest worm on the block. But when the avermectins or the ivermectin compounds came onto the scene, that parasite was basically handled. But over the years, what we've seen, especially with the advent of the pour-on dewormers and then the generic dewormers, we've seen those products kind of used and abused somewhat. And that's led us down the path of resistance because these products are being used at times of year when they don't need to be used, and they're used for fly control when they're actually dewormers. So what's gone on through the years, we've had this selection process, especially in the South, for a worm called Coperia.
And we'll have more on parasite control right after this. Stay with us.
Your herd, your business, your family,
You've always protected what matters most, so you know how important vaccinations are for healthy cattle. And with Vista vaccines from Merck Animal Health, you know you're covered. No other vaccine works like Vista. Only Vista gives you complete dual-action pneumonia protection and complete one-dose fetal protection for the entire pregnancy. Protect what matters most. Talk to your veterinarian or animal health supplier about Vista.
I'm an NCBA member because NCBA, they look at the facts, they look at the history, and they look what's good for the industry.
It's important to be NCBA members just because of what NCBA does. They keep us informed about a lot of things that are going on nationwide.
The reason we're an NCBA member is we think that it's the best voice that the cattle people have.
Join NCBA today. Head to beefusa.org or call 866-USA-BEEF.
Welcome back. Let's return to Arkansas and reporter Brian Baxter for more on the value of controlling internal parasites in cattle.
Dr. Newcomb says Coperia resistance to avermectin class dewormers was first documented by the U.S. Department of Agriculture on an operation in Wisconsin with cattle purchased from the southeastern U.S.
One of the first cases of parasite resistance recognized in the United States was up in Wisconsin, which would seem kind of odd. But what the guy in Wisconsin was a stocker guy. And what he did was he bought cattle in the south. They were overwintered in the south, and then they were moved up north to Wisconsin. But while they were in the south, basically they were dewormed pretty regularly, about like every 60 to 90 days with some form of pour-on dewormer. So when those cattle traveled up north, they carried every parasite that was in them or left over from those dewormings up to Wisconsin. And what the guy in Wisconsin had actually found was that his production level was going down. And then he contacted USDA, they got involved, they did fecal samples, they harvested some cattle, looked at the worms, and they found the predominant worm in those cattle was Coperia.
Newcomb says new research sponsored by Merck Animal Health confirms that these avermectin-resistant Coperia can have a significant impact on cattle performance.
Back in the dark ages when I was in school, Coperia was thought not to be a problem at all, but we've done some recent research where we've seen that that particular parasite, especially like an operation like that Eldon has, it can cost you up to a quarter of a pound a day in gain and up to 1.5 pounds a day in dry matter intake.
Newcomb states research shows that once resistance develops to a class of dewormer, parasite resistance occurs with every product and form of that class of dewormer.
Once the worm gets resistant to one of those classes of dewormers, it's going to be resistance to everything in there. And, you know, recently there's been a lot of hype that it was generic versus name brand. That it really doesn't matter. That once they gain resistance, they've got resistance to everything in that particular class of dewormer, whether it's brand X or brand Y, whether it's generic or trade name, they're going to see the same thing. The parasites will be resistant.
Dr. Newcomb says as important as an effective deworming is to the performance of cattle, cattlemen need to know their dewormer is effective.
Well, producers need to make sure whatever dewormer they're using is effective. And what they can do is take fecal samples on the day that they deworm, and then again 14 days later. What you want to see is about a 90% reduction in that egg count. If you don't get a 90% reduction in egg count or greater, then you've not had a successful deworming. And you need to go back and ask yourself a few questions. Number one, was the product administered correctly? Was it administered at the correct dose? If those two can be answered yes, then you need to start thinking about you might have a resistance problem and contact your veterinarian or parasitologist for help.
To prevent resistant parasites from multiplying and spreading to an operation, Dr. Newcomb says producers can use different classes of dewormers concurrently to minimize and manage parasite resistance.
Well, producers need to do to manage the parasite burden is basically clean the cattle out. Like if you're a stocker operator, you want to make sure that you kill all the worms in that animal as it comes into your operation, so you're not carrying resistant worms or distant population of worms onto your property. The best way to do that is to use like Safeguard, because Safeguard kills within 24 hours. The other thing you want to do too is to add that in combination with one of the macrocyclic lactones, one of the ivermectin type compounds, because when you do that, you're getting the best of both worlds and you're protecting each compound from resistance developing.
Dr. Newcomb says the strategy of concurrent deworming with two different classes of compounds was developed, tested, and proven in Australia.
The modeling to show that the combinations work, that work actually started in Australia. What their model showed was that by putting the products in combination and using them at the appropriate time, you could actually extend the life of these products for several years. The other thing that they found, and the model did predict this, is that the amount of resistance or the number of resistant worms would go down by using the combination products. And over several years, that seems to have been proven out that the model was correct.
Newcomb says the concurrent deworming strategy has also proven to be a worthwhile investment in trials in the U.S. feedlot industry.
On the 4 feedlot trials that we've done and are published, what we found was that there was about a 10-to-1 return on your investment by using the combination of a macrocyclic lactone or ivermectin with Safeguard, okay? And that was 4 or 5 years ago when cattle prices were much less than what they are today.
Newcomb says cattlemen can see the benefits when they use this deworming strategy in their operations.
Well, 3 things to remember about strategic deworming is, number 1, it reduces parasite burden on the pasture. Number 2, it will improve the health of the cattle. But number 3, and probably most importantly, it will put more money in your pocket.
Eldon Fry agrees.
The one thing I want cattlemen to know about using a deworming product is that they will see results. They'll see weight gain, they'll see the cattle perform better, the product will pay for itself.
Reporting from Quitman, Arkansas, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
To find out more about controlling cattle parasites, visit the website mercanimalhealthusa.com. Still ahead, we'll showcase our Facebook photo contest winner, and we'll hear from our friend Baxter Black. We'll be right back.
This isn't a job, it's a calling. Your hard work helps feed the world. Being linked to those who care for the land is our calling. For more than 175 years, John Deere has been a proud partner of the cattle business. That's why we bring you special NCBA member discounts, so you can get the right equipment, strong, rugged, versatile, and ready to work hard. Talk to your John Deere dealer to learn more about your NCBA member discounts. John Deere, committed to the land, committed to your success.
Tough trailers built for tough country. Big Ben Trailers manufactures a different kind of trailer, one that's built to put up with the rough conditions found on the ranch. Rugged build using heavy-gauge powder-coated steel and a 2x4 rectangle tube frame. There's a 1-inch gap between the side and floor, so there's no place for water or manure to accumulate and rust. Big Ben trailers are loaded with standard features: a lever-action hitch, a 3-foot escape gate, and a middle sorting gate, rhino lining along the front edges, and a receiver hitch to tow another trailer, chute, or other equipment. Tough and practical. That's Big Ben Trailers. Designed and built by a working cattleman, you can rely on and trust Big Ben Trailers for their durability and convenient features. Reasonably priced for any rancher to afford. For a list of dealers and other design features, visit BigBenTrailers.com. Big Ben Trailers, built cattlemen tough.
With NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, we have the opportunity to travel around the country and visit with ranchers and their families. One common theme we hear is the value of those ranching families place on being members of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. On a chilly spring afternoon, we visited the Isley family in Wyoming, and they shared with us the reasons they are members of NCBA.
I think the most that I get out of being in organizations like NCBA is the networking opportunity with other young producers that come to conferences or conventions, and finding out that you're not the only young producer out there that's going through similar changes or issues, and being able to just say, hey, you know, if you're ever in my part of the country, come visit our operation. Just knowing that there's kind of an open door policy with other young producers out there, just by being part of an organization like NCBA is just wonderful. It's a great opportunity.
Probably networking is the number one. You realize other folks have fought battles, and you need to talk to them and find out how they won those battles or what they learned from those battles. I think NCBA is a great resource, because one of the things they do, they provide information, especially to members of Congress that may not have another source. They're credible, and they have great reliability as far as their reach to people. In addition to political and legal challenges, I think that's the best place to turn to those organizations. They have the know-how and the experience to reach out and help their membership.
One more point I'll add to that is also the political and the policy and working with the organization to ensure the future of agriculture, and specifically in the cattle production, knowing that there's people out there that are working with our congressional delegation and our country just to make sure that we continue to expand in the importance of agriculture, and not just that it's a mom and pop operation anymore, that it's beyond that. It's marketing, it's research and development, it's pharmaceuticals. It goes above and beyond just the feeding the cows like the ones in the background here.
To join Kendall and Mark as members of NCBA, just call 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit the website at beefusa.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, I think a rancher has to be a steward of the land. There's nobody else that can take care of land better than a rancher. When we switched over to the Purina products, it was a step in the right direction.
The difference we see in the cattle is the consistency of their nutrition.
The cattle hold their condition a lot better throughout the whole year.
It does make a difference that we can see, day in and day out.
We know who made that hitch. We know who cut the steel, who milled the ball, and who welded the seams. We know who tested, measured, and checked. We even know who thought the whole thing up. We're B&W, and we know your hitch. Because we don't make them halfway around the world. We make them all right here. B&W. Trusted.
Working your cattle just got easier. Introducing the new Vet Gun delivery system, a new way to apply topical insecticides to your cattle. The Vet Gun lets you remotely treat cattle with effective parasite control, so you can do it from an ATV, on horseback, or just walking among the herd. It's that simple. The proven topical insecticide AML Vet Cap is used with the Vet Gun. It works fast to control horn flies and lice while minimizing stress on your cattle. Fast, easy, effective. Vet Gun. Check with your animal health supplier for availability.
Elk hunting season, the high point of the year for a lot of us who live out here in the Mountain West. We've been going every fall since we were big enough to pack a rifle. We enjoy the thrill of the hunt and being with friends. A week in the woods, going hunting every day, and coming in the evening and cooking around the campfire. The camaraderie, telling stories, and remembering the big one that got away. Well, it's a social interaction that's been practiced since cavemen hunted the magnificent mastodon. And of course, the mighty hunter is always welcomed home by his loving mate. In her mind, she can picture him on the trail of the mighty bull elk. Lo, the weary hunter came, no blood upon his hands. His darling wife in sweet relief bid welcome to her man. For 10 long days he'd hunted from ridge to rocky stream with sportsman cronies like himself. Alas, no elk was seen, and he told her how at daybreak they'd light out from the camp and walk until their back and legs were knotted in a cramp, and then how around the campfire with reverence they would speak about their wives and their families and their plans for Holy Week, of politics and health food and hunting as a sport. And then, just for therapeutic sake, they'd have a little snort. Well, she bore his epic saga as wives are forced to bear, but she winced when he said she forgot to pack his underwear. Well, she stilled the mighty hunter. Her answer left him stunned. You must have overlooked them, dear. I packed them with your gun. This is Baxter Black from Out There.
Thanks, Baxter. Now, if you're on Facebook, you can search for Cattlemen to Cattlemen and find us there. Recently, we held a photo contest on Facebook, and we gathered some outstanding entries from across the country. By the vote of our fans on Facebook, the photo contest winner was Chris Meintz of the Meintz Ranch in Cortland, Nebraska, for this beautiful image of the ranch and cattle taken at sunset. Great job, Chris. Now, for this week's legacy photos, we share some of the other great images that were entered in our Facebook photo contest. Let's have a look. Remember, you can send us pictures of your farm or ranch by visiting cattlementocattlemen.org. Include your ranch or farm name and hometown, and we may use them on a future episode. Well, that's our time for this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you right back here next week on RFD TV.